This is the plaintiff, Charles Sanzano. He says he owns an air conditioner service company. The defendant is a client of his. He made 2 service calls to her house and hasn't received payment for either one. He sent emails, texts, and still no response and no payment. Now it's 4 months later, and he's starting to get impatient, wants his money, and is suing for the $738.11 he's owed. This is the defendant, Deborah Baharastani. She says the plaintiff's son made a routine service call to her house, and the very next day, she had a huge water bubble in her ceiling caused by a leak to her AC compressor. The son came back the next day, repaired a pan on the compressor, and then she got invoices for both services. She doesn't think she should pay because the ceiling was damaged by the leak. The problem was overlooked by the plaintiff's son during his first visit, and since he was negligent, she owes nothing. She's accused of not chilling.
All parties, please raise your right hand. Okay, have a seat, guys. Thanks. Litigants have been sworn.
My stuff, right. Thank you, Douglas. The Cooling Company Incorporated, represented here by Charles Sanzano. You're the owner. You are suing Deborah Baharastani and Martin Baharastani. You'll be appearing for both of you for $738.11 in service visits that she authorized but has not paid for. Talk to me. Tell me what happened.
Yes, that is correct. I am the co-owner of a small business, a family-owned business. Mrs. Baharastani called us to do the maintenance, which is an annual event that we do for preventive maintenance.
Had you been doing that all along for her?
We did in 2006 and 2007. She hadn't called us until 2012.
Okay.
And of course, this year, 2013. July 3rd, we did our scheduled maintenance where we replaced the filters.
How much do you charge for the scheduled maintenance?
We charge, in this case, $340 plus sales tax.
Okay, and what do you do during a service call like that, the annual maintenance?
Well, what we do is we check the refrigerant levels, we clean out the condensate drains, we check the thermostats, and there's a myriad of things that we do to make sure the system's functional for the summertime.
Okay, and that occurred on what date again? I'm sorry, July?
July 3rd.
3rd.
Of this year.
Okay. So they came, they did that work, you authorized it, you signed the ticket?
It, correct.
Okay, but then you had to call them back.
Yes.
At what day did you have to call them back and why?
Starting July 4th, when I woke up in the morning, there was big paint bubbles and blisters in the ceiling, and I wasn't sure where the water was coming from. Couldn't find the leak anyplace, shut the main water valve down. Still, the bubbles are still appearing, so I called a friend of ours who recommended the cooling company, Walter. And Walter said to check the condenser unit in the attic. I went up to my son's room, pulled up the trap door. The trap door was wet, and once I opened the trap door, that whole area was all wet. So I knew it was the air conditioner. There was no question about it. So at that point...
But that's not normal. There's something that's spewing water. What was it?
It was the actual unit that's in the attic. That's called a condenser unit that Chris was supposedly have serviced as part of the summer tune-up.
Okay.
So, I mean, if he wasn't going to take a look at it, then to make sure that that would be okay too, then why would I have a summer tune-up? That was my whole point. So at that point, I went back downstairs. I called the phone number that I had for Charlie and the cooling company. Got
when
the machine,
did you call them back?
And that would be July 4th. And I wasn't surprised to get the machine, but I also have a small business, and we have our phones that are forwarded to our house. And I would think that they would probably have an emergency service number.
So when did you reach them?
So it was actually my plumber, Walter, who reached Charlie on his cell phone. Walter then called me back and said that Charlie would be calling me back.
But the subsequent repair visit wasn't until July 12th.
Well, because on Saturday, I spoke to Charlie. I think it was on Friday. He sent Chris back on Saturday to take a look at the damage.
Saturday what?
Saturday, it would have been the 6th.
Okay.
To take a look at the damage. I know he saw the damage. He could not help but see it. By then I had my repairman there who had cut out a 4x6 hole in the kitchen ceiling. And I have pictures of the repaired ceiling. I don't have any pictures.
I see, of the repaired ceiling?
Of the repaired ceiling. I don't have pictures of the damage because in the interim, my house was on the market and we sold our house. So I
that doesn't have anything to do with taking pictures. Do you have a phone?
Stop
a second. Do you have a phone?
I do have a phone.
Does your phone take pictures?
It does take pictures.
If I looked in your phone right now, am I going to find hundreds of stupid selfies?
No, you're going to find...
Oh, no, wait, that's my phone. All right. I mean, if you could take a million pictures for it, you could take a picture of something that looks like it's going to be a problem because you didn't pay, you refused to pay these bills, so it was kind of already a problem.
Understood. Right. July 4th, my 87-year-old mother-in-law and my 3-week-old niece were coming over. We're having a barbecue, and I have a
I don't expect you to take it July 4th. Well, what about the 5th, though?
No.
How about the night? You know where I'm going with this, right?
Totally. Okay.
But right, so you didn't take pictures. Who repaired it?
His name is George, and he's a repairman that I've also had known for many years. He do all the repairs in my house. 4x6 hole in my kitchen.
Do you have any
ceiling.
proof that you paid him for the repair? Nothing. You can't prove that you paid for the repair.
I can't. I don't have a check payable to him.
Stand up, please. I am talking to him and not to you right now. Okay. What's your name?
I'm Christopher.
Okay. You are the son?
Yes.
And how old are you?
I am 30.
Okay. You look so much younger. All right, Christopher.
I'll take it.
It's all about you, my friend, because you're the
about
guy who went there the first time.
I'm the guy who went there the first time.
And what did you do the second time when you went?
The second time, which is the 6th, when I went there after she told me about the leak, I went upstairs and I saw what happened. It's an air handling unit in the attic. It makes water when it's running. It's got a primary pan, a secondary pan. Water went into the secondary pan. Secondary pan rotted through, dropped the water onto the ceiling.
Okay, how is this not something that you look at when you're doing the yearly maintenance?
Yeah, it is something that I look at. When I initially went there to do the maintenance, when I go in the attic, I clear the primary drain. That's the one inside the actual unit. I clear that out, and I do look inside the secondary pan to see if there's any water or anything like that. There was none that day, July 3rd, when I went there.
But you could see how somebody might think you never bothered to go in there because it was kind of inconvenient.
No, I can understand that, but that's totally not the case.
What a coincidence that the problem is, right after that, if you had drained it.
The primary pan is initially what was supposed to take the water out, and that's what I cleared.
So, okay, hold on. So the pan is supposed to take the water out how?
In an attic situation, it's gravity, so it goes out into a gutter.
Right.
Okay, the water, as it collects, it goes out. That's the primary.
So how does water get into the secondary pan? A clog?
It could be a clog. It could be, in this case, it seemed that the unit actually the primary pitched a little bit over to the back side, drained into the cabinet. See, I didn't do the initial installation, so I don't know. And as a matter of fact,
but wait a minute. Hold on. It hadn't been a problem until it was a problem.
Right.
So how did that happen? How did the problem happen?
Totally understandable. From what I understood, and when I went there and looked at it, the unit itself is level. When I took the door off, what I discovered was the water was back pitching in the actual pan inside the unit, and after time, it dumps into the secondary pan. The pan underneath it, the secondary pan, rotted out.
Did you notice that it was? Put your hand down.
No.
Did you notice that? Don't send him. If you're going to send him, then he's a big boy who can do it without you. All right. Did you notice that the secondary pan was rotted out 2 days earlier when you were there? And did you bring it to the homeowner's attention?
No, I did not notice that.
Why didn't you notice that?
There was no inclination for me. Nothing to tell me that there was a rot. The pan was dry. It had no water in the secondary pan.
What did it rot in 48 hours?
No, that's where it comes to a question over time.
If it's over time, how was it not rotted 48 hours earlier?
The bad luck that day, literally, I went there.
But something doesn't look pristine to the eye. You either didn't see that it was rotted when you went in the first time.
I didn't.
Or it wasn't rotted when you went in the first time.
No, I didn't see that it was rotted the first time.
Well, why didn't you, though, if that's what you're getting paid to do?
In the secondary pan, usually what I'm looking for is if I see water in that secondary pan, that's a telltale sign that something's wrong.
So you weren't looking carefully for rot?
It's something that you just, no.
How old is that condenser? Do you know?
I don't know.
How long have you been in the house?
Oh, I've been in the house. I was in the house almost 30 years, but they've been servicing it, like you said, for a very long time, for 7 years, for at least 7 years.
Any problem like this before now?
No, never had a problem like this. Never had a problem. Never had a problem. That's why I called, is to not have a problem, to do the summer servicing.
Yeah, well, what good did it do?
May I, Your Honor, there was a 5-year interval where we did not service these people.
I'm sorry, you said you were there in 2012, and then you went in 2013,
right. In 2012,
which means there was a 1-year period that you hadn't serviced.
There was nothing wrong with their system in 2012.
But I don't understand. The lady is paying you 300 smackaroos to check everything.
And this situation, let's hypothetically say I didn't show up to do that maintenance, okay? That rot that happened in the secondary pan, which shouldn't have had water in it to begin with, would have rotted through regardless.
That's true, but let me give you another scenario. Yeah. You show up and you're careful, and you check out the secondary pan, and you tell her, lady, you're gonna have a problem with this, we need to replace that pan.
The day I was there was no water in that secondary pan.
Let's hear from you, Dad. Go ahead.
Yeah, I think the biggest thing that concerns me as a business owner is why, after numerous phone calls, invoices, statements, emails.
Yeah, why were you
that
ignoring
they
them?
ignored
Because they
us.
really had to. They had to send you
no.
threatening letters
Right.
until you finally told them why you weren't paying.
No, that's not true. When he called me and asked me for payment, I said to him, your son came. He saw the damage that the first service caused the very next day. He went up to the attic. He saw everything. He saw the pitched pan. He saw the water.
When did you respond to them?
When he called me.
September.
It sounds like
Your Honor.
some time passed.
Your Honor, that was
It could be.
September.
I don't
sounds
live
like
there
some time
full time. It
passed, 'cause
could
I can
be.
see the frustration in his correspondence to you that you're ignoring.
You know
him.
what? He has my phone number. He has my cell number.
I understand, but you were getting his bills. You had his bills.
well, as I said,
you
I
just
don't
were
live-
trying to avoid the confrontation.
No. I'm not trying to avoid any
Okay,
confrontation.
if you really spent $800 to repair the drywall, why would you not have been the one to call them, to tell them, guys, you've cost me $800. Like, why did that not happen?
Because the primary objective for me at that point was there's 12 weeks to the selling season and my house was on the market. My objective was to fix the repair.
What does that have to do with what I'm saying?
Because that's not
You can
what
only do
I
one
was
thing at a
thinking of.
time? Well, when you're done doing the repair, why couldn't you?
Welcome back to the People's Court. Harvey Levin here. So is this guy entitled to 2 house calls for what he did?
No way. No.
Why not?
Well,
He did come back twice.
Well, he came back twice, but he could set up the 3rd trip and the 4th trip and the 5th trip by not fixing it.
In other words, it's a scam. What do you think?
No, yeah, it's a scam. He's just trying to get some extra money. That's it.
But he is coming back, and if he did something the first time, maybe it wasn't perfect, but he did something.
Did he?
Does he get paid for 1 visit?
Well, was it in good faith? Did he really try, or was it a scam? But
Let's say it was negligent. Does he get paid for 1 visit?
well, one visit, but that would be the second one, not the first one where he made a mistake.
Fair enough. Going inside the courtroom.
So what is it you think you should pay? 0?
You know what? I asked Charlie. I said, Charlie, we have to do something here. You have to do something for me because I went through all of this inconvenience. I had to pay $800 to have the ceiling repaired. Let's work something out. That's all. That's what I said to him, and I said it just like that.
Your Honor, that's
And
inaccurate.
just a moment, sir.
No,
And
that's what I said to you.
And what?
He said no. That he was going to take it to small claims court.
okay.
I said,
and your
fine.
response, you wanted to respond to that?
Your Honor, in September, when I finally got her on a cell phone, I said, how come you haven't called me, Debbie, in all this time? She said, I'm speaking to you now. If I
So
was
did she offer to
if
try?
we were negligent,
I'm just
why
curious.
aren't
Did
we
she
the
offer to
defendant? She's the
settle, to
plaintiff.
to work something out with you? And at that point, you
I certainly would have been able to negotiate. Chris would have given up his
No,
labor.
I'm not. You're not hearing me. I'm asking.
Oh, I'm
on that
sorry.
day, on that phone call, was
Yes.
there an effort to negotiate it?
No, not at all.
Okay. So here's what we have, folks. We have a first service visit where you charge her $369.33 and a second service visit where you charge her $368.78. So let me ask you, Mr. Sanzano, since we now know that there was a rotted pan
Yes, the
that
second-
rotted over time that your son did not warn her about, and that there was a resultant drywall damage, you think she should pay both of these bills?
I do, and I'll tell you why. When he discovered the rotted pan, which was not an entirely rotted pan, it was a small hole in the back end of a pan, so it was not leaking when he got there
He
on
never
July
saw
3rd.
any rot on it because
No,
he didn't
it's
see it.
impossible
He
to
didn't-
see until the water comes out and you try to find out where the water
Why is it impossible to
This
see?
is up in an attic. This is a pan that is beneath an air handler.
Right.
3 feet wide by 5
In
feet
that
long.
particular instance, I think, what size pan did I put?
What
I put
size
in a
was it in
28
this?
deep.
That's the pan
28
that's
inch
just
deep
beneath the
pan.
air handler.
The furthest end
No,
of
the
that.
jelly roll pan. So what do you do to
Stationary
inspect
pan
it? How do
mounted
you
in-
inspect it when you inspect it?
You look right in it. If you see water in it, then I have a telltale sign.
It could be 36 by 60 inches.
Yeah, underneath a machine this tall in an
Right.
attic that I'm crouching in, to get under that side corner, I need a mirror
No,
this long.
you're
and a flashlight.
you sound like my husband. You're describing why you can't, like, that's what my husband says for why he can't do it. But that's why we hire you for you to do it. So I expect you to stay thin, wiry, and nimble
I'm trying.
and figure it out. You're doing fine.
Thank you.
But you got to figure it out. I don't know. It just seems, don't you feel bad? I realize she was blowing you off. I get it. But now let's get past that and let's talk about whether it is, let's say she called you right away and said, hey, what the heck? Instead of waited around and made you chase her. Would you really think that it would be fair under these circumstances to pay both these bills? I guess your answer is yes.
It is.
Yeah.
The only other thing that I want to put into that too, the second time I was there, which I assume is the 6th.
Yeah.
I went up there, I discovered it. I came down, I spoke to the defendant and her husband. and I told them both, look, this is the situation. This is how I have to rectify it. I need
How
these.
did you rectify it?
I instead of a metal pan, I brought back a plastic pan in my
What's the
ticket here.
pan cost?
Oh, the pan cost me about $70.
Okay, we've talked this to death. Here's what I'm going to do.
Like that.
I believe that she should get some credit on, at a minimum, that first bill. There's work that you did that has value, the changing of all of the filters, the inspection of, I guess, other stuff, but I'm uncomfortable because this is something that you should be able to catch if you're an expert.
Right.
But I'm uncomfortable about your presentation of proof in your defense to the bill because you don't bring me a decent receipt. But I am assuming and accepting that there was certainly damage. Now, I don't know that I can say that that damage was their fault. I can certainly say, if I pay you $400 to inspect my system, you ought to inspect my system. But to say you don't have to pay anything, I would have to find that something he failed to do caused it. That he put a hole in the pan, that he, you understand the distinction?
But you have to remember is that I didn't have the leak until he came to service the air
You don't have any
conditioner.
evidence that he caused a leak inside that pan. I think it's far more likely that he didn't bother to look carefully. I'm going to order you to pay a portion of the bill, and that's $538.11. I'm giving you a $200 credit for him not spotting what he should have spotted. Okay? That's my judgment.
Well, the plaintiff collects all but $200, and here's the defendant right here. What's your reaction to this verdict?
My reaction, of course, is I wish that I didn't have to pay anything.
Would have been nice if you had brought some pictures or some evidence or a receipt or something.
I know.
With nothing, what can the judge do?
And perhaps an apology from the cooling company for admitting that they didn't check carefully as they should have.
And so you don't like the way they treated you as a customer then?
Absolutely.
How about the way you treated them by not returning their phone calls and stuff?
When I spoke to Charlie, we spoke. We could have resolved it at that point.
Okay. Head right down there. All right, so come on in here, and what's your feeling on this? You got all but 200.
Well, that's her judgment, and we accept that. However, if she would have called us and not taken 2 months to try to respond to us, we might have been able to negotiate something.
What about she wants an apology? Do you owe her one?
No, I think she owes us one.
Really? Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Are you going to be more careful checking those secondary pans from now on?
No, I'm always careful. It's just bad.
You say you can't find it until it happens, right?
Exactly.
How about pouring some water in the thing and see if it holds it?
No, it's a secondary pan.
a secondary
That's
pan.
its job. Collect the water and alert the customer.
Not the primary.
I know, but if it leaks, if you put water in it and it leaks, then there's a problem.
It's just, but it's...
Harvey?
Well, it's actually the first visit he gets paid for because here's the thing. If somebody does a job for you and they don't do it right and they have to come back a second time, the second time you don't have to pay for it. They have to fix it the way they would have fixed it the first time. That will do it for this case. Litigants for the next case on the way into the courtroom right now.